So I was asked to introduce you to what is considered a European Union best practice, that is the Italian law on green public procurement, with, of course, a focus on the inclusive design aspects. But first, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Alessia Planeta. I belong to Cerpa Italia Onlus, an association established in 1993 that aims to contributing to a better quality of life for all. To achieve this goal, the association promotes researches and studies and develops projects and activities in the field of inclusive design, especially building design and urban planning. Currently, the association counts 50 members located all over Italy and belonging to very different professionals. Among our members, we have mainly architects and engineers, but also psychologists, teachers, professionals in health and safety, because we want to offer a very wide and multidisciplinary perspective on inclusion. It is important for me to tell that since 2000, the Emilia-Romagna region mandated Cerpa to establish and run a service center providing free consultancy and information to public officers and professionals in the field of building design. I worked up to 2018 as a director of the center. The center is named CRIBA, which stands for Regional Center for Information on Environmental Well-Being. During my years at CRIBA, I specialized in law consultancy and legal issues interpretation. That's why maybe I'm here today. And what I realized during my years at CRIBA is that law is boring. Talking about law and legal issues can be really boring. It is indeed, but it is also useful because it is a fundamental framework to express our creativity as inclusive designer. Moreover, the European policies are already influencing national laws and they are already giving direction and indication right now and more in the near future. Therefore, I will show you very quickly the European context that has generated the Italian Green Public Procurement Law, the scheme of the Italian law, and then I will point out the most interesting and transferable features, highlighting at the same time obstacles and barriers that have already been detected or that could arise later. And I will conclude trying to provide you with tips and suggestions that can be useful and practical, even though you are a public officer, a designer, or a manufacturer. The European and Italian public procurement policy is rooted in the strategies implemented since 2003, 2005 to promote and spread circular economy. What is circular economy? It is basically a model of production and consumption that involves sharing, reusing, recycling, refurbishing existing materials and products as long as possible. So it is about prolonging the life cycle of products as long as possible. In practice, it implies reducing waste to a minimum and reintroduce products within the market, thereby creating further value. It is about protecting the environment and saving money to be reinvested. But for the European Union, circular economy is sustainable economy. The overall economic strategy can be sustainable if it aims at the same time to protecting the environment, ensuring social equity and protection for people, and of course, promoting innovation and growth. In this framework, the European Union released two important guidelines in 2008, buying social and buying green. Those guidelines are still valid because they are regularly revised and updated and contain important suggestions for policies and strategies development. But the guidelines were only mirroring the ongoing process of policy development addressing the topic of procurement. So why procurement? If we consider that in the European countries, the public sector accounts for more than 25% of total employment, and that public authorities in the EU spend around 14% of their gross domestic product on the purchase of services, works, and goods, it becomes evident that public procurement has a key role in delivering circular economy in Europe and sustainable economy in Europe. So green public procurement became part of the European legislative framework with the Commission communication on integrated product policy in 2003. All the European Union member states were advised to adopt national action plans on green public procurement by the end of 2006. So nowadays, the majority of EU member states have set up a national action plan on green public procurement, and Poland has one. How does it work? The European Union, following a long period of consultation with stakeholders, has devised 24 product groups and established core criteria and comprehensive criteria for each product group. The core criteria are the ones that are fundamental to address the key environmental impacts. The comprehensive criteria are those additional ones that allow the public authority to define and then procure products available. The core criteria and comprehensive criteria shall be included in all type of procurement tender, either for products, services, and works, in all type of procedure, restricted procedure, and competitive negotiated procedures. Core and comprehensive criteria can serve as selection criteria to identify a restricted group of actors, or technical specification, or award criteria, with criteria giving an extra score to the proposal. It is important to say that the use of the criteria is nowadays voluntary. In Italy, there is an EU member state who has included criteria as mandatory in their own national laws. For a very quick review, I simply did the 24 product groups. A group can have one or more subgroups and comprehensive criteria. Furniture has 3 sub-product groups and 28 core and comprehensive criteria. Road construction, design, and maintenance, which is a very big group in terms of expenditure, has just one 40 So while showing the differences in the adoption of green public procurement in Italy and Poland, I will also tell you why Italian law is considered a European Union best practice. Basically, because in Italy, green public procurement criteria are mandatory. That's it. In Italy, we have indeed identified 17 minimum environmental criteria for 17 product groups, and 7 additional ones are currently under development or under revision. The minimum environmental criteria are surely based on the EU ones, but they have been tailored on the Italian situation, and their inclusion on all type of tenders for all type of contracting authorities is mandatory. The introduction of at least the technical specification and the contract clauses of the minimum environmental criteria are mandatory in all tender documents, regardless of their value. As far as Poland is concerned, it is important to notice that green procurement and, for what we are interested in, social procurement indication are already included in the Polish public procurement law of 2019. Of course, they are general recommendation, not obligation, but they follow the approach and the strategy highlighted in the Polish National Action Plan on Green Public Procurement. Accordingly, guidelines on social procurement and green procurement have already been developed by Polish government. And this is important because this provides the legal basis to introduce inclusive design, features, recommendation, instruction within Polish public procurement tender starting from now. I will now show you very quickly how the Italian law works. I chose the category furniture. There are 2 subgroups, purchasing of new furniture and rental of furnishing services. As far as purchasing of new furniture is concerned, I listed in the orange box 13 items. For each of those 13 items, technical specification, mandatory technical specification have been defined, and 4 additional award criteria have been defined, so that each public procurement tender for purchase of new furniture must include items, requirements for all the 13 items listed in the orange box and the 4 items listed in the green box, with their own relevant assessment or verification criteria.
Alessia, could I just ask you to read the last of the award criteria, please? Because on the screen there is a bar which blocks out part of the wording at the bottom of this the screen. So for the record, it would be useful if you would read the last one. Okay, the last one is an award criteria, so it gives an extra score, and you have this extra score if the warranty for the product is extended over 5 years. Thank you. Again, this is only a quick example. You don't have to read everything. Here I listed only the technical specification for just the first one of the 13 items in the orange box. Just to give you an idea of the complexity
of the mechanism underlying the submission of a proposal and then the evaluation of a proposal. Of course, each of the specifications must be verified. The main type of evidence required is documentation. For instance, the verification for the item dangerous substances is a declaration of the legal representative of the company. But such a declaration must include a very comprehensive report on the basis of the declaration of every component supplier regarding each of the substances listed in the previous slide. And for additives and nickel, the evidence report by a conformity assessment body shall be included too, only to verify this first item. So in general, for the Italian law, the main type of evidence is documentation. So declaration, reports, and label were available. What can we learn by this very complex system? I have shown this very comprehensive legal framework because there are some useful conclusions we can draw and that we can apply to inclusive design. I really would like to start from barriers and facilitators to try to find those transferable issues and give practical direction. Many reports and studies have already been carried out either at Italian and EU level to assess the functioning of this law. Of course, for the European Union, mandatory requirements and verification are a very positive aspect because they can ensure a regular and homogeneous application of the benefit of green and social procurement. Harmonization is the reason why standards, international standards and labels such as Ecolabel and ISO standards is recommended. And the third very important aspect is the consultation with experts and experiencers. Consultation with stakeholders and participatory processes are crucial because they have proved to be a successful tool for public authorities to detect real and specific needs on their territories. On the other hand, the framework I've shown you is really articulated, is too articulated. There are too many items, too many criteria, too many documents to be provided. And those who have to evaluate the tenders are often not trained to go in depth and to assess the true and the overall inclusive value of a proposal beyond the mere compliance with percentage measures and a technical specification. And there is poor or no monitoring of the final results. That means that at the very end, it is not checked if the goal is achieved or not. So to summarize, the risk, the great risk, is that the quality of the proposal is reduced to the compliance of the document provided with the technical specification because of the lack of training of the evaluators, but also the lack of training of those who prepare and submit the proposal. Because To avoid risks and responsibilities, only technical specification, that is percentages, data, parameters, is considered, losing grip on the actual performance. Standard and certification, let alone simple declaration, can verify the true inclusive value of the proposal. They are useful, but they are only a framework to maximize the effects of a well-trained creativity of designers and manufacturers. So the painting replaces the frame. So the frame replaces the painting, and the quality risks to be poor, in spite of how detailed is the law. When there are too many mandatory data, measures, and parameters, neither the designers or the evaluators feel the need to think in terms of performance. And when time passes and technical requirements are not updated, the introduction of a truly effective solution, inclusive solution, can be delayed or impaired. So what can be done? I will try to show you some general principles. I'm really sorry, I can't provide a list of tips or some recipes, because inclusive design is a mental attitude. And without the right comprehensive view or framework, list, parameters, and recipes are useless, if not damaging. So the keywords of what I'm going to say from now to the up to the end are performance, information and training, and multidisciplinary approach and participation. Those keywords are fundamental not only for public authorities, but for all the professionals involved in shaping and designing a truly inclusive environment. Because without a joint effort and a strategic and comprehensive view, best design for all products, the best procurement tenders, the best inclusive teaching, or even building can be useless. This is a very strong statement, but I will tell you in a few seconds why. So again, what can be done? First of all, it is already possible to include inclusive design aspects in public procurement, in Polish public procurement, starting from now, because the Polish National Action Plan on Green Public Procurement already recommends to include the criteria and the approach of socially responsible public procurement and green public procurement within Polish procurement tenders. But what I wrote in the green box, the first one, is that the local authority must pay attention to carefully define the level of expected environmental performance, the performance expected by the products, the works, or the services they want to procure, giving only a few technical specifications. The best procurement tender shall be drafted only after consultation with local stakeholders, local experts and experience, who can help to draft guidelines that are in line with the effective and current needs of the territory. And in the end, training is an issue of paramount importance. Local authorities have either to require and provide training to all the departments, not only to the one involved in the specific tender. Why? Because only an integrated effort can ensure a true inclusive result. In this slide, I just made a very simple statement of what I was referring by saying carefully defining the level of expected performance, giving only few technical specifications. In this box, the expected performance is the autonomous and safe use by every kind of people of doors. This is the expected performance. Then how to realize it is left to the creativity of the designers or of the manufacturers that shall duly explain and motivate why their solutions are inclusive with respect to the expected performance. But why I'm saying that all the departments of a public authority shall be trained? Because a very inclusive product, a truly inclusive product, can be really undermined or even nullified by a bad maintenance or the wrong placement. For instance, a department could publish the perfect tender for the perfect pathway, but then placing street lamps in the middle of the sidewalk should make this pathway completely, definitely, totally inaccessible. So verification in tender is a very important issue. Technical report, schemes, certification and standard, test results, reports on the result of consultation are all very good evidences to be required. But without an integrated approach and a comprehensive training on behalf of all the departments involved in that tender, the results can be really undermined. The goal achievement can be undermined. What can be done by manufacturers and retailers, but also by public officers too? First of all, as it has already been said in the past lecture, it is necessary to consider design for all as a tool for the general market. And this consideration affects communication too. Communication is a very important issue. I remember that during the lecture 2 weeks ago, an attendee pointed out how reluctant elders customers are to accept what they perceived as solution for elders. They do not want to be closed in a ghetto. So an effective advertising and communication should stress the quality of life and performance related aspects rather than focus on specific solution for specific categories. But effective and good communication means paying attention to the usability of websites and especially e-commerce websites and of our customer care system. Can elders and disabled people and everybody, regardless their age or health condition, can reach my company or my public office easily and comfortably in case they want information or have some complaints or have requests? Good communication can create awareness on the advantages of inclusive products, reinforcing the demand for those products on behalf of a wider public. And again, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. There are literally tons of documents available and reliable sources of information and very good association to to be informed if someone wants to take one or more of these steps. Just an example, I show here a swing. In Italy, we have swing for wheelchair users. Those are ugly cages laying often neglected in Italian playgrounds, and I've never seen anybody use these swings. On the other hand, these swings is really for many, many people. It is used by disabled people, it is used by mother with infant, it is used by toddlers, and I've seen teens having a lot of fun standing up on both sides of the swing, making a lot of noise. This is an inclusive product. And now I just show you some tips to improve the accessibility of e-commerce. Pop-up menus or working on font and letters to adjust the view. There are millions of websites offering tips, information, and consultancy on how to make your e-commerce website more accessible. But I just want to remind you that in 2025, the European Disability Act will be fully effective. It will be a mandatory law for all EU member states, and it contains a lot of requirements about digital accessibility, digital inclusion. And now something for designers. Again, is not only for designers, is for all the professionals involved in shaping and creative and inclusive environment. Because design for all is a mental attitude. It requires an inclusive approach. There is no such as categorized design. There is only a design that takes into account the huge variety of condition and functioning of people. And when I say design, I mean strategic design, building design, urban planning, policy design, teaching design. It means extended usability. It means favoring inclusion, connection, and communication between places, products, and people. The first consequence for a designer is to acknowledge that a single designer can't know everything. So it is really important to allow some time to discuss the specific topic with experts and experiencers. So to consider a multidisciplinary approach. Inclusive design is necessarily multidisciplinary, and it is important to allow sometimes to make studies and research, to regularly update and refresh knowledge. So, inclusive design can design a truly inclusive world only if it is a mental attitude in all those people who are responsible for creating an inclusive environment. At this time, it's important for me to recall the definition of disability. Disability is the result of the interaction between a person with his own unique physical, mental, psychological, economical condition and the environment. Environment meant in its widest meaning: social environment, cultural environment, political and economic environment, and of course, built environment. The environment creates, increases and decreases disability, not only for disabled people. And I really hope that this training that has already offered you some specific tips to be transferred within public tenders can help you all to draw your unique inclusive painting. Dziękuję.